Okay, 101, week 6, part 9. We wrap this up. So Socrates, at the end of the speech, he reminds he's been speaking to the god of love, Eros or Cupid, and again, Eros is where we get the word erotic from, because this is a speech about love. He says, "And thus, dear Eros, I have made and paid my recantation." Because he had said bad things about love, because he was trying to outdo Lysias, and now this is a recantation, meaning he's taken it back. He's sorry. As well and fairly as I could, more especially in the matter of poetical figures, which I was compelled to use because Phaedrus would have them. So he used all these fancy metaphors just to keep Phaedrus entertained, just to help keep, because it would help Phaedrus to learn, and it would help Phaedrus to pay attention. But it also, all that stuff about the chariot and the soul and the wings and the good horse and the bad horse, that kept me entertained. I was interested in that. I thought that was really cool. So I'm also, like Phaedrus, we the audience who read this thing are in the same position. We're like Phaedrus. Phaedrus is us, because we're both learning from Socrates here. And he says he put them in just to help explain it to us. Not true. They're poetical figures. It's poetry metaphors. Not real. Just a story. But you learn something from it. And this is true. I'm sure you guys have taken classes where you read plays, maybe Shakespeare plays, ancient Greek plays. I don't know what you read. Novels, short stories. None of that shit was real, but you can still learn something from fiction. That's what Socrates has done here. He has used sort of fictional ideas about the horses and the chariots and all this stuff to teach you something about that stuff, about what his philosophical subjects. Okay. All right, so he says, "And now forgive the past and accept the present, and be more gracious and merciful to me, and do not in thine anger deprive me of sight, or take from me the art of love which thou hast given me, but grant that I may be more esteemed in the eyes of the fair." So he says, don't take my sight, because I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of pages ago, he was saying other speakers and poets who insulted the gods struck them blind for punishment. And Socrates was worried. Lysias said bad things about love, and then Socrates was like, I can do a better job. But he also said bad things about love. And he's like, oh shit, the god of love is going to make me blind unless I take it back, do a recantation, and do a speech about why love is good, and then he won't lose his eyesight. He also, by the way, though, we've been talking, sex keeps coming up, but there's a funny little line here that he says, do not take from me my power of sight, or take from me the art of love which thou hast given me. Meaning, sort of, don't give me erectile dysfunction. Like, don't, he says, look, I'm sorry I said bad things about love. Now I have said a big thing about why love is good. Please don't strike me blind or make my penis not work anymore. So it's Socrates has said sex is not his focus, but obviously, there's some interest in it there. It's just not the most important part of this. But he says but grant that I may yet be more esteemed in the eyes of the fair. And if Phaedrus or I myself have said anything rude in our first speeches, blame Lysias, who is the father of the brat. He's not really his father, but he, actually, I'll say something about this. Blame Lysias, who is the father of the brat, and let us have no more of his progeny. Progeny is children. He says it's not, blame Lysias, who is father of the brat. And he says progeny. Brat is like a bad child, and progeny is child. This is something that's going to come up a lot in part 3. When we get to Unit 3, which we're going to get to very soon. The idea that when you write something down, you are like the father or mother, and the thing that you wrote down, that you created, is your child. I know you probably do not think about the essays that you write for your professors like your children, but that's Socrates. It's another one of those metaphors that Socrates likes, and it's going to come up. This is going to become an important part in part 3, where he will talk about how writing is sort of like, the author is like the father or mother, and the writing is like the child. And I want you to notice that now, because it's going to come up later. Because the idea is the child is something that is born from you. It's a physical thing that's born from you. But writing and words and ideas are mental things that are born from you, and so they're like your children. And wouldn't you write better essays if you thought they were your children, or they represented you in some way? But you can see the connection between the two subjects, because your children will live on after you die. But your writings will also live on after you die. If you're a musician, your music will live on after you die. The things that you make, and Socrates is really interested in things that are made with words, writings and conversation, survives after you die. After I am dead, There will be students of mine who will remember the ideas that I taught them. The Hindus say that when you're born, you owe a debt to your parents, and the only way to repay that debt is to have children. But if you don't have children, be a teacher. It's a nice idea. I like that a lot, actually. So he says here, okay, so this idea that your writings, your essay, your school essays, I mean, fine, but your school essays and the things that you write and the ideas that you share are like your children because they live after you are dead. And they carry, just like children sort of carry your genetic material forward in time, your essays carry your mental material, your soul, forward in time. That's interesting to think about, the idea that essays and writing and words are it's a way of living forever. It's strange to think about that, but Plato wrote words down thousands of years ago, and we are still studying them today. We are studying his words, and they've been translated and passed down, but in some ways, do you see that it's strange to think about, but in some way, writing is a technology. We'll talk about this in Unit 3. It's a little bit like time travel. That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but when we read Plato, we are hearing a voice from the distant past in the present. For Plato, that's a little bit like time travel because his words are now thousands of years in the future. If you got to go thousands of years in the future, you'd think it was fucking cool. Well, Plato's words have gone thousands of years in the future, and that's why I think it's interesting to read old things, because it's like time travel. Okay. All right, so he says, all right, bid him study philosophy, meaning let's tell Lysias that instead of doing speeches and being an asshole and saying crazy things like you should marry someone who doesn't love you, he should study philosophy, because apparently that's what his brother does. And that his lover Phaedrus will no longer halt between two opinions, but will dedicate him wholly to love and philosophical discourses. And that is the end of the giant speech that he has given. The idea is that you see, notice what I underlined that part where he says Lysias will not hold to two opinions. This is because Socrates says that Lysias needs to stop doing these stupid speeches and study philosophy, and he says that if he does that, Phaedrus will no longer halt between two opinions, but will dedicate himself wholly to love and philosophical discourses, and discourses is words. It's an important thing here, because remember what Lysias is doing is he'll just say whatever clever thing he can think of. So he'll write a whole essay, a whole speech about why you should marry someone who's not in love with you, and then he'll turn around and write a speech about why you should. He'll write a speech on anything. He doesn't care. He'll write a speech and then he'll write a whole speech about the opposite. Just like you might do. You might write a speech about why love is good, and then you might write a whole other speech about why love is bad. And it's like you don't even care what your speech is. You just want the A. You just want the grade. This happens all the time in school, where you write about subjects that you'll like write an essay, and then you'll realize it's easier if you reverse your position and have a totally different opinion. But like, what do you actually believe? Most people don't write what they actually believe in their papers. They write what they think will get the grade, because that's the bad horse. See, they're interested in the grades and the diplomas and the power and the money. But Socrates says the problem with what Lysias does is Lysias thinks of clever, interesting, strange things to say, and he'll say them, and then he'll say the opposite, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care about higher heavenly things. He just wants to impress other people, regular, everyday people. But there is kind of a whole other, and that Phaedrus will be stuck, because Phaedrus doesn't know what's true. He just knows how to persuade people. And that's what the next section is about, it's about persuasion. Okay, cool. All right, I think I'm done with this video, and I will see you guys in the next video, where I'll probably wrap up pretty soon.